It's just after 11 p.m., September 1st, 1944, Mattoon, Illinois. The air inside the house feels thick, feels heavy. It's the kind of late summer Midwestern humidity that presses down on everything like a wet blanket. The windows, they're open. They have to be. There's no air conditioning in 1944, but the breeze, it never comes. Inside a small house on Marshall Avenue, Aline Kearney lies in bed, just staring at the ceiling. Her husband, Bert, is working the late shift, driving a taxi. Her 3-year-old daughter, Dorothy, sleeps quietly in a crib nearby. Outside, the town is silent. Just the occasional freight train rolling through the Illinois night. Then, she smells something. At first, she just thinks it's perfume, something sweet, almost floral, lilies, flowers of Illinois. But it's stronger, much, much stronger. It has a strange chemical edge that then starts to sting the back of her throat. She wrinkles her nose and shifts in her bed. She tries to sit up, and suddenly, something's wrong. Her legs won't move. She tries again. Nothing. Her legs feel heavy, cold, like they no longer belong to her. Panic! It starts to rise in her chest. Her breathing becomes faster, but the faster she breathes, the more that strange smell fills her lungs. She turns her head toward the open window, and for a brief moment, she thinks she sees movement outside. A shadow, tall, thin, standing near the house, watching. Then it moves, and it disappears into darkness. When her husband gets home later from work that night, he finds his wife shaken and struggling to stand. She tells him someone had been inside the house, maybe just outside the house. Someone might have released a strange gas into the room. At first, they're like, nah, it's impossible. But within 2 weeks, more than 24 families in the same area, the same town, report the same exact thing. The same smell, the same sickness, the same terrifying feeling that someone had been prowling the streets at night. And soon the newspapers, they give the mysterious attacker a name that still sounds unbelievable today. But before we get there, we need to rewind. Because to understand what happened in Mattoon, you have to understand the world that is happening in 1944. What's up, everybody? I'm Matt. This is the Yorktown Podcast, and joining me, as always, is the slightly confused on what's going on, whatnot queen, Meg.
Hello.
What is up?
I just keep waiting for you to do it.
You want to do the what's up? We're trying to bring it back. But all of the kids are saying
you said what's up like 5 times, and I just kept waiting.
Well, maybe I thought you were going to do it.
Okay, moving on. Sorry.
Moving on. What do you think of that little bit of a intro?
It's terrifying.
A little bit terrifying. So this story is, we're going to go with one of two options. We're going to see how this episode goes. It's either going to be a little bit of a longer one, or it's going to be a 2-part. All right? Because I found a lot of cool stuff about this. So we're going to we're just going to do our normal thing. When we get to the part where it's going to be part 2, we'll see where we are for time. If it's about a normal episode, we'll make it come back. We'll do a little cliffhanger. But if we still got time, we'll run through it.
All right.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
So what are you thinking? Initial gut feeling. For anybody that doesn't know, maybe you're new here on the Yorktown Podcast. We do small towns, big stories. And this town at the time, not very big. And this story is pretty wild, in my opinion. But Meg doesn't see any of the show notes. She comes in here. She just kind of feeds off what we say, and I always love to just see if her gut instincts on that. Because she does have a little a little forensic education many moons ago under her belt. So I want to see if she still got it or not, So what do you think? Other than terrifying. First, the woman wakes up. She smells something. She's just laying there. Baby's not too far away, and then she smells this smell. And then all of a sudden it stings, and then she can't move her legs. And then 24 people. Same smell, same thing.
I want to know, though, was there...
Well, I'm not going to just tell you right now. That'll ruin the whole story.
Was there anything stolen?
And reported?
That was just it.
They are under the assumption that whatever happened, they never entered the house. It was like, I'm by your window. Something's coming in my house, and then they're gone. Why someone would just poison you and leave? I don't know, but why do people do the things they do? If we had that answer, we'd be rich and not stuck in this frozen tundra in March where it's still snowing and it won't stop.
Right.
All right. So you want me to keep rolling?
Yeah.
All right, let's give a little bit of the context. In 1944, I wasn't there. Probably most of the people listening, you weren't there either. World War II, probably heard of it. It's still raging in 44. Nearly every American family has someone serving overseas at this point. Newspapers carry daily reports from Europe and the Pacific. Radio broadcasts talk about bombings, invasions, casualties, all that nasty stuff, before social media. So at home, people, they're told to just stay alert. Government posters, they warn citizens to kind of start watching for things like sabotage. Factories across the country, they're producing weapons and equipment for the war effort. Paranoia is everywhere. People are out there thinking, is that person a spy? Are they going to sabotage me? Where are the secret weapons? Are there secret weapons? So now imagine living in a quiet railroad town surrounded by farmland. Mattoon, Illinois. That's how you'd say it, right? Mattoon? Mattoon?
Mhm.
Population around this time, obviously reporting was a little different back then. They estimated around 15,000 people, so not huge. Cornfields, they stretch for miles around the town. Freight trains roll through the town day and night. It's a common theme here. Neighbors, they know each other. Front porch conversations, they drift through warm summer evenings. This town was the kind of place where nothing unusual ever happens. Which, in every small town, it seems like the stories we do, it's the same thing. Everybody knows each other. Nothing bad ever happens until suddenly something happens, right?
Right.
So the first report that we were able to kind of find documented was August 31st, 1940. It was actually one night before the Kearney's experience. Another Mattoon resident contacted police later that night. They reported smelling a strange odor in their home. The smell was described the same way nearly every victim would describe it later on. Sweet, sickening, almost like perfume mixed with chemicals. Soon after smelling it, they began, feeling dizzy. The legs started to feel weak. They couldn't really stand up. So the police came to investigate. But obviously, it's 1944 technology. And by the time, the police arrived, the smell's gone. There wasn't any signs of forced entry. There's no broken windows. There isn't an explanation, right? At first, officers assumed it might have been industrial fumes drifting from nearby factories. I mean, after all, Meg, it is wartime production, right? Chemicals, they're constantly moving through the air. Regulations, they're not what they are today. But then the next night, another report. Then another, then another, then another, then another. Guess what? And another, and
Was there
another.
multiples on same nights, or is it just one a night?
For the longest time, it seemed to be one a night. But then I feel like, let's be honest, it's the 40s. Times were different. Most, men were over fighting the war, so it's a lot of women, right? And at that time, I have to imagine it wasn't as easy as women to just come forward and say, well, there's something happening. But I think once one did, then another did, then another did, then it was easier for them to all be like, well, this happened to me, right? So next thing you know, the police department, they're flooded with calls. Seem like every day for a couple of days, But they began, these families, reporting the strange nighttime incidents. But the pattern was very similar. Someone wakes up in the middle of the night, they smell it. Within minutes, they feel dizzy, nauseous, weak. Some, their throats were burning, the legs, the whole thing. One woman later says she felt as if her entire body had gone limp. Another says she could barely move for nearly half an hour. But the most disturbing detail wasn't the smell, it was the sightings, because several residents reported seeing someone outside their homes. It was always a tall figure, usually wearing dark clothing, sometimes standing near windows. That's creepy in itself.
Right.
The whole, oh my gosh, there's somebody standing outside my window. And then sometimes they reported that they would see that person just running away down the street. One resident claims they saw a man crouched beside their house before disappearing into darkness. Another swears someone had been lurking near their bedroom window. So the police, they just started patrolling neighborhoods late at night. But every time officers arrive, this mysterious person was gone. So you're thinking, who is it? You got any other theories popping in your brain, or just keep rolling then, right? Like that train that's coming in and coming out.
I need more details.
All right, let's see if we can do that, all right? So within 2 weeks, roughly 20 to 30 incidents are reported. The newspapers began covering the story, obviously pretty heavy. So you know what the reporters did, Meg?
What?
They had to come up with a mysterious nickname, right? At first, some articles called him the Mad Anesthesiast, but
Ooh.
another name quickly caught on. The name that followed this mystery for decades. You know what they called him? The Mad Gasser of Mattoon.
I like it.
Right?
It's got a ring to it.
I feel like there's
The Mad Gasser.
the Mad Gasser. I feel like after some Taco Tuesdays, somebody in our house could be called the Mad Gasser or the Bad Gasser. But suddenly, this quiet little town becomes national news. Almost every time, these big stories. Isn't it crazy to think how a story could go from a small town to national by only paper? I mean, it was really just newspapers, reporters, people, calling and just making the story pop. And within every headline printed, the fear in this town grew stronger. By the first week of September, the town is on edge. People began sleeping with shotguns beside their beds. Neighbors, they started organizing their own patrols. Men walked the streets late at night watching for this suspicious little stranger. The summer heat, unbearable. But many residents began shutting their windows anyways. Could you imagine that? Dead of summer. Hot, windows shut. Not a good time. Again, no air conditioning back then. They're
When did
afraid.
air conditioners come around?
When did they?
Yeah.
I mean, they started in industrial stuff, but when was the first residential air conditioner? What's your guess? So the first one was actually 1914 in Minneapolis by a mansion owner, Charles Gate. Guess how big this thing was?
I don't know. Big. Huge.
You don't have a guess?
The size of a door.
7 feet high, 6 foot wide, 20 foot long.
That's close.
And it cost between $10,000 and $50,000 or up to $600,000 in modern times.
Wild.
But the smaller ones were 29 by Frigidaire. The first window unit was 31. And then residential air conditioning didn't become widely affordable until the 50s, so like 53 roughly. Look at that. We're an educational show.
Didn't I say 53?
We'll have to rewind the tapes and find
Pretty
out.
sure I did.
Or everybody's yelling, she already said 53. Why didn't you just listen to her?
I think I did say 53.
That's what we do. We don't listen very well, us men. But every strange smell became suspicious now in this town, right? Every shadow outside a window became a possible attacker. And somewhere in the middle of all this fear, the real question becomes harder and harder to answer. Is someone actually attacking homes? Or is the town slowly convincing itself that danger is everywhere?
Don't you dare have a flower garden on a windy night.
What do you think? Because that's the end of part 1. We got time. We're doing part 2. I thought it was going to be a little longer. We're doing part 2.
Okay, let's do part 2.
Before we get into it, what are you thinking? Because part 2 is where the story gets a little bit stranger.
I don't know. I mean, it's a weird time.
Summer.
The war and everything. Somebody's like just practicing
Just in what?
some kind of chemical protection or something. I don't know.
Interesting. All right, way to think
Sounds
outside
like
the
it's
box.
a scientist.
Mad Gasser scientist. Ready for part 2?
I'm ready for part 2.
Which is actually just still part 1 of the episode. Anyways, as reports continued pouring into the Mattoon Police Department, officers began taking the situation a little more seriously. So the night patrols we talked about, they then began to search yards, alleys, and even back streets. But they questioned the residents about the suspicious strangers in town. But the investigation quickly ran into a little bit of a problem. Not a single piece of physical evidence. There was no gas devices recovered, no chemical containers, not even any footprints tied to a suspect.
Was there any like hospitalizations or like medical checks on these people?
It's 1944 in a small town. What do you think they're going to do?
I don't know.
They all
So maybe it is like mass hysteria.
Anything that I had seen, nobody died. And all of the like numbing, can't move legs dissipated. I think the longest one was like 30 minutes.
But it was seen by other people.
Yeah, like remember the husband came in, but again, by the time the police always arrived, which takes probably a little bit longer, there was nothing. Which, I mean, at the end of the day, if somebody was to spray something through a window, it's going to dissipate, the right word. It's going to go away after some time.
Right.
I mean, we live in a house full of girls. There's all sorts of products that are being sprayed. They don't stick around forever.
Right.
Right? Then the witnesses, none of them could provide a detailed description of the person. Just tall, thin, dark clothing, and gone before you could even get a good look. It was kind of like trying to track a ghost, right? But the police kept reporting and responding to every single call. I mean, this is a big issue in their eyes, And the more houses they visited, the stranger the situation became. Because many of the victims described the same physical reactions. What were they, Meg?
Heavy breathing, throat tickling, assaulted sinuses.
Assaulted sinuses. That's the band name of the day.
The dizziness, heavy limbs.
Yep. The whole paralysis in the legs.
You test me?
Yeah, I was just seeing if you were paying attention.
I am.
know you're over there scrolling whatnot, trying to win a watch or something.
I'm listening.
Rocking them fancy earrings. Anyways, people woke up in the middle of the night unable to stand. That's scary. They can't move normally. Some said the feeling only lasted a few minutes, but like we said, some lasted. They said it was a little bit longer, but it's not like they're grabbing their cell phone and running a stopwatch. But to answer your question, doctors did examine several of the victims and recorded symptoms consistent with irritation of the respiratory system. But doctors could not identify the exact cause. I mean, technology is different in the medical field. They probably still have more medical equipment and better doctors and technology than what Carthage has turned the Augsburg Hospital into. There was no chemical that were ever found. No toxins were identified, which only made the mystery even deeper. Because
no
if
toxins,
someone...
huh?
Huh?
I said no toxins, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, how are they testing for toxins in 44 anyways, But if someone was really releasing a gas into the houses, what kind of gas could cause those symptoms and then just disappear without leaving any trace, right? And it was that sweet, sweet, almost floral smell, but that chemical edge.
Arsenic.
No, arsenic has no smell, remember? Others said it reminded them of like a mix between perfume and cleaning fluid. Decades later, chemists reviewing the case noted something interesting. The description matched several industrial solvents commonly used in the 40s. One of those possibilities was carbon. At the time, it was widely used as a cleaning agent and in various industrial processes. Guess what the symptoms were, right?
Heavy limbs, dizziness, nausea,
and breathing irritation. But there was a problem with that theory. Even if the fumes from the factory drifted through the town, it wouldn't explain the sightings, right? Not going to just see a person by doing that. It's not causing hallucinations because multiple residents insisted that they had seen someone outside their homes. There was a person moving through the darkness watching and then running. But by the second week of September, the atmosphere in Mattoon had completely changed. The whole town, it's nervous, suspicious. People, they were locking their doors, shutting their windows. Men, the ones that weren't at war. Neighborhood patrol. Some residents carried weapons while walking the streets at night. They were determined to catch the Mad Gasser. If he existed, that is. But no matter what, it's like he was always one step ahead. Reports continued appearing in different parts of towns. One night would be, a house on one street. The next night it would be several blocks away. Sometimes police were stationed near homes that had previously reported attacks. But then an incident would occur somewhere else entirely. It was as if whoever was responsible knew exactly where the police were. Or maybe they were a police. Or maybe no one was actually there at all. Right? So at this point, historians begin asking the uncomfortable question, Meg. What if the attacks weren't caused by a person? What if something else started the panic? Years later, there was a psychology professor named Donald Johnson. Studied the case pretty deeply. He published an article called The Phantom Anesthesias of Mattoon. You know what his conclusion was?
That's a fun name, too.
Yeah, that's way harder to say, though. And typos in newspapers, not good for business. He had a pretty controversial conclusion, Meg. Do you know what it was? He believed the events were a classic case of mass hysteria.
I said that.
You said a lot of things.
I said that was a possibility.
According to his theory, once the first few reports appeared in newspapers, fear spread quickly through the town. I mean, how many times have you been in a situation where you're like, do you smell that? Do you smell? I smell that. And it's nothing. Or maybe it's something, but people began interpreting ordinary smells as illnesses, as something that was sinister. In other words, the panic created more panic, and suddenly dozens of people believed they had been attacked. I mean, I feel like that's a logical theory or explanation, right? But it leaves an important question unanswered, right? If the entire event was simply mass hysteria triggered by newspaper stories, then the first incidents should have appeared after the headlines began spreading fear, right? But some reports in the police records suggest something different. A few residents reported strange gas smells and illness before the story appeared in the newspapers, which means at least some of the earliest incidents happened before anyone else knew what was going on. It was before the rumors, before the panic. So something may have happened first, something real. And then maybe once the newspapers printed the story and the fear spread through the town like wildfire. Sorry, I said I wasn't going to do smoke or fire in this episode.
Nice. Way to go.
But then something even stranger happened. Everything stopped. Almost as sudden as they began. Within a couple of weeks, the reports faded away. No more odors, no more sightings, no more calls to the police, nothing. It's gone. The mysterious attacks just ended. No suspect was ever arrested, no chemical was ever identified, and eventually the story faded from the national headlines. But I feel the mystery never truly disappeared. So there's three possibilities that historians and, internet people still debate. The first, industrial fumes. They had factories producing materials for the war. Chemical fumes drifting through the town might have caused the strange smells and maybe some physical reactions. Once people began hearing about the incidents in the old papers, they may have connected their own experiences to the story.
So were the first incidences, were they closer to the factories, do you think? I wonder. Because if you're sleeping with your windows open and you're closer to the factory, you're more likely to,
There was details, though, that was just that stale summer night. No breezes, you know what I mean? Like you would think, like every once in a while, there's a factory somewhat near us, across the river, right? Every once in a while, you get a real strong storm that comes that way. You can smell the sulfur from the chemicals. So maybe, maybe it's just pumping through, coming down through the town a little bit. I guess smoke and gas and fumes are the same thing. I think I'm on a weird theme. Now that I'm thinking about it, I thought it was totally different. Interesting. But there was nothing that I was able to find that said, this house was closer than this house. You know what I mean? Good question, though. I'll go to the second theory. Fear spreads quickly in stressful environments. 44, the entire country's under war. Big stress from that, obviously. And once the idea of a mysterious gas attacker entered the public imagination, it could have influenced how people interpreted normal events, right?
Right.
But there's a third possibility, and I feel like this one keeps the mystery alive. Someone was really moving through the town at night. They were just testing chemicals, playing a little dangerous prank, maybe experimenting with something far more serious. That person existed. They got away with it.
That's what I'm thinking.
You think? I mean, my gut tells me the same thing. Like somebody started messing with something. They, probably building it in Ma's basement, testing it in their house, testing on a couple random people.
Watching the reactions, then leaving.
And then all of a sudden, everybody thought they had it. I still think probably he did less than half a dozen. Maybe he did like 6, 7. And then it just started.
Then the hysteria took over, you mean?
Then it just took over once it national. I mean, that's the time to quit, right? And who knows? Maybe he just got out of town, jumped on a train, and later. I'd be curious because there is some reports of similar things happening around later events in other towns.
Oh.
So maybe it was a little hysteria as well, or maybe the Mad Gasser closed up shop and moved on.
That's what I'm going with.
He did it, and he's gone?
Yep.
All right. So, what really happened in Illinois in 44? Was there truly a mysterious figure creeping through people's streets, backyards, and homes, gassing people at night? Was it just the industrial chemicals drifting through the humid summer air? Or was an entire community slowly convincing itself that danger was everywhere? Because sometimes the most unsettling mysteries, they're not monsters, Meg. They're about the possibility that something happened and no one ever figured out why. And somewhere in the quiet streets of Mattoon, Illinois, sorry if I've been saying it wrong the whole time, the mystery still lingers. Because on warm summer September nights, when the air hangs heavy and the town grows quiet, it's pretty easy to imagine those strange weeks in 44. The sweet smell drifting through open windows, the sudden sickness, and the shadows moving outside in the darkness, and a town desperately searching for an enemy it could never quite see. The Mad Gasser of Mattoon was never caught. And maybe that's why the story still fascinates people today, because sometimes, Meg, the most frightening mysteries aren't the ones with answers. They're the ones that leave us wondering, what if something really did happen? and we simply never figured out what it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's all we got.
Scratcher.
The head scratcher, a chin scratcher, things that make you go, Well, I got nothing else to do. All right. We got things and stuff to do. Hopefully, everybody else, you have a great rest of your week. And what's today? Tomorrow, if you're listening to it on the day this came out, tomorrow's St. Patrick's Day.
Whoop, whoop.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Happy snow go away season, eventually, everybody. But we'll do this again next week. Can't thank everybody enough. That's all we got. Bye-bye.